Before we begin, um, I'd like to express our extend our appreciation to the organizers and volunteers from ICSA. Thank you all for your support and your efforts to make this event possible. So today's event, the format, it will be a little bit different from some of our previous sessions. So we'll begin with the presentation of about 25 minutes from our honored speaker, Dr. Haoda Fu. After that, I will lead a brief discussion to help frame and stimulate the conversation. And then we'll open the floor for all the audience. Please use the Zoom Q&A function to submit questions or upvote existing ones. We will address all your questions towards the end of the session. And then the recording slides from this session will be shared in a follow-up email within 5 days of the webinar. Without further ado, let's begin with a brief introduction of Dr. Haoda Fu, our honored speaker today. I've known Haoda for more than 20 years, and he continues to impress me with his leadership and his vision for how statisticians can expand their impact in clinical research through innovation and new methodology. Haoda, can you share your slides?
Sure.
Thank you. And he's currently head of exploratory biostatistics at Amgen, and previously served as associate vice president and enterprise lead for machine learning, AI at Eli Lilly. He's a fellow of both ASA and IMS. He has published extensively across leading statistics and medical journals. He's truly one of the pioneers in bringing AI into the biometrics field, helping shape not only how we analyze data, but also how we design and think about clinical trials moving forward. Please join me to welcome Dr. Haoda Fu.
Okay, thank you. So today I'm going to talk about the leading science and clinical research from biostatistics in the age of AI. So let's start to look at some history kind of before we talk about the further futures. I believe each generation have that defining technology. For the people who were born before the 20th century, they call the lost generation. For this generation, the defining technology is the automobile. They connected with the cities and we can coming back and forth within the 1 day. After that, for the people who were born in the First World War, and the defining technologies is the airplane. So they connected with worldwide, get connections, and the people can travel from transcontinental travels just within a day. Later on, for the silenced generation, people were born during the Second World War. And for this generation, the defining technologies was the TV that can connect with different cultures and the news and on the tip of our kind of in our living rooms. Later on, the next generation we call the baby boomers. For this generation, the defining technologies is our personal computer. Actually, personal computer also significantly changed so what we are doing as a statistician. Before that, a lot of people do the statistics based on the papers, and after that, so we can run the trial simulations. We can do some more sophisticated statistical methodologies. I would I belong to this generation called Generation X. In this generation, the defining technology is the internet. I still remember the day when I was kind of apply for the university in the US. They send the emails and cross the Pacific Ocean. I can get a reply within a minute. So that's a truly amazing that each of us can connect with the world. The generation for the millennium generations, the defining technology. If you can hear about this, that's the iPhone. That can the smartphone. This smartphone can make the information on tip of our fingers. So the question is, what's the current generation of the defining technologies? Not TikTok, not Instagram. Certainly we know that's the AI. People may start to ask the questions, why it is happening right now? And each of us probably aware the hardware advancement is significant. That's the so-called Moore's law. Every 18 months, number of transistors was doubled. But that's not all of the story, because hardware plus algorithm speed up significantly. If I draw your attention to the bottom of this slide, some algorithm 30 years ago, they will take about 15,000 years to solve. But right now, they only take about 0.01 second. They provide some challenge and also our education and our statistician. You can hard to imagine a statistician 30 years ago, if they only know, if they don't know how to use the computers, they will struggle on how efficient they are. But these days, as moving forward, you can see the company, the government, this invest significantly on this high performance computing to leverage the GPU. If we don't have a knowledge on how to better leverage the GPU, then we will be behind. Not only for that, I also want to point out kind of the definition of the data is also is pending. For the past 100 years, our statistics is always evolved with the new data types come out. When the time to event data come out, we come out with the Kaplan-Meier curves, Cox models. When the longitudinal data come out, generalized estimate equations, many of the statistical methodologies kind of was booming. When the multi-omics, the genetics come out, we have the false discovery rate, kind of regularization method, model selections. But these days, in the past 20 years, the data type is a significant increase, like video, image, audios. If I can drive your attention to the bottom left, the Wikipedia. Once for a while, Wikipedia would only be considered as a website. People occasionally to go there to get some information. But these days, Wikipedia is already be considered a good training data set to train the large language models. If two companies, one company still is not able to leverage this reach of the source of the data, they will behind. Similarly, as statisticians, we will continue equip our skill set to handle multimodality of data. That come out with Leo Bremen's kind of data two cultures. Many of our current statistical trainings are primarily focused on, we assume that's a true model. Think about the testing hypothesis, kind of talk about the convergence. But the whole big amount of the work is related to our thinkings is kind of there's no true models. For example, the ImageNet doing the analysis, protein folding problems. We also need to embrace on this environment to the cultures, kind of think about both of these cultures to develop our skill set. Now let's jump in for the pharmaceutical research and AI for science. I want to start to build a mental model. So how we can impact our drug discoveries and development from a different angle. Now start with a kind of let's start with a game. I will think about the numbers from 1 to a million. That's these numbers in my mind. I will ask you to guess what I was thinking about. You guess at 35. I tell no, you are wrong. You guess at 59. I mention, oh, this number is incorrect. If I just provide correct or incorrect as a feedback, you can calculate. On average, you will take about 500,000 times to get the correct answer. But on the other side, if I tell you your number is too small or your number is too big, so that will take about 20 times to get the correct answer. You may ask me the question why I tell about this story. Because this story exactly talk about the three things that are very important for the drug discovery and development. For any of the development, these three components are crucial. Good starting point. If you at the very beginning you get the correct number, you don't need 20 times, you don't need 500,000 times. You get there. Or you have a good feedback systems. good feedback means if I only give you the correct or incorrect, you will take a 500,000 times. But if I tell you this number is too small or too big, you will take about 20 times to get the correct answer. In the end, for the fast iterations, clinical kind of making the operation efficient is also very important. Like in our previous example, although you only get 20 times to get the correct answer, but each time, if you take about 1 year, this still will take about 20 years to get the correct answer. So how this currently impact for us? For example, the good starting point. People these days probably will not be surprised to using different AI tools. For within an hour, they can digest hundreds of thousands of papers, publication, and the information and the data point. So that can significantly increase our decisions and to make a right decision at the first place. Some example in the getting the good starting point at the ideal drug target, molecule structures, drug candidate, improve the dose range, optimal study design. There are so many different points that can make us get it right at the very beginning, at the initial point. Beyond this, good feedback is also very important. The feedback is that involved many of the development points. That's including, for example, the reverse translation. How can we put the clinical information feedback in the preclinical to improve their drug discoveries and kind of design for the new molecule? But one more thing I feel like the AI can significantly helping us is kind of the helping us to better understand the research journals. For the past 400 years, we still, and even right now these days, people kind of the scientific information is still locked in the academia journal. People doing the research published in the JASA annals or kind of in the statistical journal or published in the New England Journal of Medicine or the JAMA. But for those informations, sometimes for the non-statistician, for the non-medical folks, sometimes they need to take some time to digest this information. But right now with the AI technologies, they can better helping us to personalize this information. I can just get the information where I need. So for example, these days I heavily rely on some like a notebook LM that's provided by Google. I can upload, like give one example, like FDA guidance and new recent publications published in the medical journals. Make this as a podcast for 20 minutes because I only take about 20 minutes for driving to pick up my kids. And to this customized information can help me to exactly get what I want and make my life is much more efficient. So this kind of the related on how can we get the good feedback, can quickly to digest this information. As a statistician, we can also make this information more customized this and quickly to provide a bigger impact. How can we make this information one of the table listing figures, the statistical analysis result, tailor this information for medical, for marketing, for payers? We can quickly tailor this information for different audience. In terms of the good feedback, they include this personalized message, transdisciplinary collaborations, chat with the literature, and chat with the data. I will talk about the chat with the data a little bit more later on. The third component, the fast iterations. I'm not going to go through all of this, but AI can help us to speed up from target identification, drug design, lead kind of optimizations from different clinical phases. They can help us to speed up this iteration, provide good feedback, and speed up this iteration, shrinkage the clinical development timelines. In terms of data, I also truly believe kind of this fourth stage is happening right now. The first stage is the digital, kind of make the information, is digitalize this information. As we previously mentioned, AI enabled us to analyze different type of data, different modality of the data. There are a lot of data, there are a lot of information, digital information is easy for human to read, but it may not be easy for computer to read. For example, the protocols, a lot of protocol in the PDF files. The PDF file is easy to read by human, but not easy to read by the computers. How can we make, first step is to digitalize this information, and the second step, make this as a data. The data means build a database, build a relationship, net relationship, and to kind of let the computer better understand kind of these informations. The next step is make this data become knowledge. So that can helping us to build our analytics models on top of this that can helping us to address some what if questions. What if I increase my what if I increase my X, what the Y looks like. What if I open a additional three site? What's the impact for the clinical operation? What if I change my baseline from A1C like 6.5 to 7.0? What's the impact of the clinical trials? To answer this what if question, the, from data to the knowledge. Once we can answer those what if questions, the next step, very naturally, they can provide what's the optimal solutions under the constraint, under the conditions. So that is from knowledge to the intelligence. As our statistics, if we see the bottom of the data analytical technology, during the past, we focused a lot on analytics, and because that's significant need for us to better understand the technologies for the future, so we can build better solutions. We can also see this kind of the if we see this kind of what happening right now in the softwares. So what is the software? Is R. Human generally interact with the software. Software interact with the data. You program in R and R interact with the data, you get the answer. In the very near futures, and I truly believe our humans plus AI agent they can directly interact with the data. That will be a huge impact for our discipline. The another thinkings along this line, kind of I like doing the exercise and kind of doing some little bit of the triathlons and I have a lot of bike in my garage. So once a while I was thinking about the idea. So why there's no Airbnb for bikes and there's no such apps? If I double click on this, so it doesn't work during the past to spend your time hiring the people and build the app, maintain this app. They take a lot of effort, but the bike relatively is very cheap, like $100. You can buy the used bike. A couple of $100 you can buy the used bike. It doesn't work kind of to build the app and to build a team on top of this. So there's no companies was working on this. But on the other side, with the AI technologies, people probably see the news early this year, a couple of the high school students with no experience of codings and just use the cursors and use natural language to chat with kind of the Python code. They can quickly build an app on, they can run on top of the App Store. So which means that significant amount of opportunities very soon they can fill in this gap. Previously very expensive to develop the app, but right now it's very easy to develop some solutions. So because of that, many of our work could potentially also change. So if I look at for the past 50 years on the software industries, kind of what the software was doing, it basically kind of transform the paper-based solution to the kind of electronic version of the informations. I still during the past people look at the papers and make the decision, and kind of right now people look at the computer screen to make the decisions. During the past, people go to the libraries and search some information. Right now, they use Google, use some website. The efficiency is improved, but there's an even bigger market these days. AI is erosion. It's on the labor market. Right now, they can helping us to more efficiently to do some work for us. That's why kind of the at beginning of this year, and we probably already see that a significant decrease in the software engineering approach and on the programming side, and the people and actually based on the numbers, the number of jobs kind of programming entry level programming have been decreased for the past 25 years. That come out to some questions. As a statistician, what's the essential skills that we need to gain and to better equip ourselves in terms of gaining the knowledge of AI? So the reason we're doing this because in the futures, very soon, the employee kind of the performance not only depend on yourself and where you graduated from, how many papers you published, and it also will depend on you and how efficiently that you can leverage the AI. The AI technologies will increase the performance gap between the employee. So that's why we each of us need to better kind of equip ourselves with the skill set. I will talk about the four skill set I truly believe is important as we discussed. So the first one is the AI mindset and AI communication, AI integration, and AI-enabled kind of innovation. For the AI mindset, it's important for us to understand the AI capabilities, what the AI can do, what the AI cannot do. And so the only way to get deeper understandings of this is try and experiment by yourselves and keep asking questions, keep doing the experiment from your side. This is also important not only to use AI with at the next levels, it's also encouraged to understand a little bit on AI, different AI architectures. They can, for example, kind of the large language model is largely based on the transformer technology, the sequence-to-sequence model. Understand this can also help us to better, more efficient communicate with AI. Just to give one example, if I ask AI to draft a very long, kind of like a 5,000 word of essay or the 5,000 word of the protocols, they will not drive very efficiently. But if I ask AI to generate table of content first, after that, based on table content, they can generate the full content of the result. They will be much more efficient than directly ask the AI to generate the whole kind of the protocols or the documentations. The reason we're doing this is because if people know the sequence models, the architecture, how the transformer, little bit of knowledge on how the transformer works, that will be how better understand this is the more efficient way to communicate with the AI. Once we understand the different tools, it's also important strategically to delegation between the AI and humans. We already see some of the work content is changing. Instead of you just program by yourself, right now you can divide the work for the different component, kind of delegate the work for different type of the agent to help you to do the work. The second piece is the AI communication. As we all agree, in the working environment, human-human communications is very important. But AI, human and AI communication these days also become extremely important. How efficient to communicate with the AI is understanding some basic of the pump and kind of engineering fundamental knowledge. That's the important for any series of the work. It's important to kind of get the right pump and get the right answers. I keep hearing people talk about the hallucinations, kind of AI models can do something kind of the hallucination. But once we have a deeper conversation with the folks who complain, I personally identify almost 95% of the time either people didn't have a correct pump to do the work. I just give one example. Using the A kind of in the next slides, this is one of the professional prompts that come out how to based on the papers generate the abstract, generate the keyword. This kind of I didn't mean to ask you to read all of the things, just give the eye chart. It's not lot of people using the AI, similar like using the Googles and ask one of the question. You can imagine if you randomly bump another person in the shopping mall and ask them questions, how good the answer this person can give to you. Similar like AI, you need to provide what's the context, what's the role like the AI to provide, so they can have a more precise and better solutions. It doesn't mean at each time you need to write down these long prompts, kind of, but at least you need to understand principles and at what time you are going to use this information. So in the end, I have two components in the AI tools integrations. So these days we need to be vulnerable and to share what you are doing in the work, and so other can get can get a suggestion from your colleagues, workers, and other folks who is really good like the tools integration. I learn a lot from my teams, from people working with all together, and how can we use the AI tools to helping us on each day of life. I just give one example. If I'm going to walk my dog for 20 minutes, can I at the same time I have 5 papers to read. I can just summarize in the high level these 5 papers, make this at the kind of very short audio books, very short podcast conversations that can significantly improve my efficiency to digest the information. In the end, I'm also thinking about the importance for the AI and kind of enabled innovation. So the first step to helping us to we need to first realize each of us have a cognitive boundaries. People often say to make yourself become knowledgeable, the first step is you need to admit yourself the ignorance of yourself. If you can and they keep have the kind of mindset, there's always things they can improve. The kind of in life is evolving. There's always some iterations they can do in your life. With that mindset, keep asking the questions, break down the cognitive boundaries. It's also important to develop yourself as a cross-domain integration and knowledge, interdisciplinary knowledge is very important. So these days, the physicians can already use AI to analyze the data, and the whole AI and let us, for each of us, have a much wider spectrums to understand the whole material. And as our statisticians, we also need to equip ourselves with more broad knowledge so that we have the opportunity to kind of have a bigger impact. So here is, I think, the journeys. We are biostatisticians, but that's not enough. We want to understand kind of these days, we already see, understand the technologies, understand the infrastructures. That's the important kind of to build efficient tools to make us or make our function become more efficient. So that make us become a so-called full stack biostatistician. That's not enough. We need to keep asking the question, think about this, and how we can make ourselves become a full scientist. Among these journeys, I truly believe one thing is really, really, really important is be curious, keep asking questions, keep explore. Now this is kind of my talk, and I want to leave enough time for the conversation and the discussion. So we start from AI is the defining technologies for our generations. 'Cause this is a very exciting time. It transformed how we work and reshaped our scientific discoveries. Each of us need to embrace on this environment and equipped with a new skill set. Among all of them, I'm thinking the most efficient, kind of important things is just be curious. Yeah, that's all my talk, and I will invite the Helena with me and with the next step with the QA and also the panel discussions.
Okay, thank you so much, Howda, for the very insightful and thought-provoking presentation. In such a short time, you give us lots of information and insights. There's a lot for us to reflect. To continue the conversation, I'd like to start with a few questions, and I'd also encourage the audience to start to put your questions in the Q&A session. So Howda, my first question for you is that how AI has been applied to clinical development, and what are the most promising use case of AI you've seen in the clinical development so far?
Okay, yeah. So first part, I want to kind of the lot of very exciting development that not only in the development side. So what I observe and see the very exciting development even come from the drug discoveries. If I step back a little bit, think about the pharmaceutical innovation, what's the most important innovation, and to make one company the kind of as a good company, another company with a great companies, to grow from a small company to the big companies. I was thinking the molecule innovation. The molecule innovation is the most important innovation in the pharmaceutical company. These days, we already start to observe in the molecules, kind of in particular, starting from the large molecule design. During the past, there's some AI technology, machine learning helping the small molecule. Their progress is slow, but I will also start observe the larger molecule in design have made a significant breakthrough. Beyond this, we also see some of the in the coming back to your questions for the development side, and some people may think about the innovations can overnight to change the to change the whole environment. But I would say the lot of improvement is gradually improvement. Uh, if we look at the history in the technology and innovations, like for example in the steam engine was developed in the late kind of 1670s or only after 150 years later, and the steam engine can significantly broadly used to replace kind of human laborers very broadly. They took about 150 years. I don't mean the AI can will still take about 150 years to revolutionize us because right now we already build the infrastructures and build the technologies to make this happens much faster. But we do observe this very fast kind of evolvement most recently. For example, in the AI in the clinical trials, one of the piece kind of really took a really long time in the clinical trials is the clinical recruitment. In the clinical recruitment, that kind of previously often took for years on the clinical recruitment, but right now, kind of during the past, we work with Massachusetts General Hospitals and kind of they can screen all their kind of based on the colonoscopy videos. They can screen for the past years who are potentially qualified for the clinical trial. Then they can preload the clinical trial patient, and which means once the clinical trial site is open, we can quickly have a lot of patients come in the clinical trial. That significantly reduce kind of the recruitment time and make the trial run faster. And these days, we also use the kind of super covariate and to build the inform to build kind of to interview the candidate, make this interview 5 minutes video and one of the covariate information and put into the model and improve the prognostic predictions and reduce the sample size. So there are so many of these areas is kind of improved as previously what we did and improve the efficiencies. So that's some kind of give some of the examples with both drug discovery and also development phase.
That's great. It's very interesting to know how it's applied to both science and clinical development. Although it seems like still, as you said, it's developed or gradually, right, to have more impact on future research and development. The next question I'm going to ask you, Hauda, is from your perspective, how AI is going to change the day-to-day work of biostatisticians?
Yeah, so that's kind of the very interesting. That's a very interesting question. I feel like our job content is keep changing. I'm just I'm just kind of there's one paper is we just submitted to a kind of the biopharmaceutical report. It talking about the evolving role of biostatisticians. We reviewed for the past 75 years how the statistician role is changing. So it's not just AI to change our job, and actually our job is continue change for the past 75 years. At the very beginnings, we only focus on sample size calculation. And because of the computers, they can be more powerful and we can start doing the trial simulation. We can do the trial simulation. We can run the more sophisticated trials like adaptive design. And this already happened with the Bayesian methodology, MCMC. Actually, the method of MCMC developed in the 1955 or around that times, but only most recently, for the past kind of the 30 years, and because the personal computers become very powerful, the MCMC method become powerful and widely used. And in our clinical trials, the Bayesian design and many of the kind of become very popular these days. So to looking forward, the kind of AI is also keep changing our job. So I would say, for example, like the programming, and during the past, a lot of people doing the programming, and right now with the AI technologies, and maybe the person doing the programming the job content will be evolved. For example, they can quickly to make the judgment how to divide a big chunk of the complicated work with a small chunk of the work, and which piece is more suitable for AI, and which piece is still be responsible for humans. And then in that case, instead of become individual contributors, and you will manage different AI agents to help you improve the efficiency. So that's kind of the things. And also for the kind of decision making, and also for the decision makings, I'm just thinking about in terms of decision making, for any of the decision making, the most important, the number one mistake for people making the decision, regardless of change the job, you buy a car, you find a girlfriend, the number one kind of the mistakes is you don't consider about enough alternatives. So I'm thinking that we will also see kind of this piece AI is already helping us, and once we make any of the decision, then AI can helping us to see a broad choice For example, like including the study design, what statistical methodology use, what other companies are thinking about this kind of molecule development. So they can quickly gather this information to let us see a more broad pictures and help you to evaluate the different alternative solutions. So that is already happening at this moment. I truly believe that will be happen more for the near futures.
Very interesting. How do you talk about what AI can do for us? And um, my next question is like, what aspect of statistical reasoning or methodology you think it will remain human and will not be replaced by AI?
Okay, yeah, that's the very good question. Now, I'm going to address these questions from three perspectives. And before doing this, I'm just use one example uh, to put AI into the context.
Mhm.
I would think about AI as a three stage of the AI. So the first the three stage with the name of a different scientist, very famous scientist. I would think the first stage is called if you people know the name, the Johannes Kepler. Johannes Kepler could inherit many of the data from or steal a lot of data from his advisor, and after that build the kind of the Kepler, the law of the Keplers, and to understand how the solar system works. So what they do is get a snapshot of the data. From the data, they do the pattern recognitions. That's what currently large language models, deep learning was doing. The second stage of the AIs is more like the kind of the Thomas Edison. I call it Thomas Edison. So they don't have all of the data. They run the experiment. From the experiment, they collect this data. They do a better reasoning. They identify where is the data gap. So this year, the Turing Award, the highest computer science award, gave the Richard Suda. He was a very famous guy and talking about the kind of reinforcement learnings. I truly believe the reinforcement learnings and interact with the real world. That is the second stage of AI. That is happening right now. For example, like Fei Li was building the real world models, and many of the activities happening in these areas on the real world interactions. So this is the second stage. The third stage of AI, I call it Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein get all of the kind of information and they found very abnormal things and inspired him to completely revolutionize the science. They think about the speed of light is a constant. So I'm thinking right now, all our AI is in the first stage. People was trying the second stage, moving into second stage, not successful. In the very near future, I didn't see they can happen in the third stage. So having said that, I'm thinking that a lot of things that AI cannot do for kind of at by very basic level beyond this kind of these fundamental innovations, the inspirations. So at least kind of I'm thinking from the different angles is taking the responsibility. We cannot like the AI to take the responsibility. Ultimately, the human to take the responsibility. So we cannot like just AI do the submission to interact with FDA if some statistical methodology is getting wrong and we blame AI. We like can OpenAI to pay the price. This is not possible. So our humans still need to take the responsible for the final result based on come out from the AI. That make each of our biostatisticians have higher levels. So instead of understand how to do programming, you need to understand the full pictures. You need to take responsible for all the results come out from the AI. And beyond this, as we just mentioned, is this appreciate kind of what's the beauty, appreciate kind of the have this inspiration moment, the spark moment. I didn't feel like the AI can do at this moment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Um, now at this time I will open the discussion to our audience. I only have one questions now, but I hope the audience will submit more questions. But let me start with this question.
Mhm.
Is I've worked with unstructured claims data that was processed from machine learning on the data provider side, but it is consistently being criticized, so we almost never use it as sponsor. What do you think can bridge this gap to build confidence on utilizing the data?
So when talking about when talking about the real world data, people probably know after 2021, FDA have released almost 8 or 9 guidance. People can better set these numbers on to use the real world data. So I feel like in some areas, the real world data is very useful, and but ultimately kind of so it really depends on the situation. It really depends on the situations. Because at this moment, I truly believe that if there's no randomization, there's no causations. So lot of time we want to really truly understand if this drug to treat the patient. That's the causality question. So if there's no randomization, this question will be very hard. Will depend on many of the assumptions like stable unit, non-inferiorance, and this kind of no unmet confounding. There's many of the assumptions can. Although the statistical methodology can help you to solve some of these, but many of the other assumptions is unverifiable. So yeah, certainly in some areas better than nothing. For example, oncology keep running the single arm trials, and if we can have some additional real world data to support the competitor arms, if we in a real disease we cannot recruit so many of the patients, the real world data can help. That will helpful, and in some situation we need to continue to explore. But on the other side, my opinion feel like the randomized control trial still will be the gold standard. It's very hard to completely replace by the real world data. But on the other side, randomized control trial cannot answer all of the questions. And for example, the patient adherence in the real world settings, they still need some of the real world data to answer those questions. So my answer for here to this question, it really depends. We probably need to use the right data for the right moment. They cannot talk. It's very hard to talk about one to replace another's.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I do have another question from the audience is, can you name a couple of must-have introductory books or tutorial to AI innovation?
Okay, so for the so that's a good ChatGPT questions, and probably ChatGPT can better answer than I do. So I'm thinking it really depends on what you need on the on the AI. So if you want to the general to understand how different mathematical equations, the Andrew Yang have and some Stanford class open course that's really helpful, and they have different levels of this machine learnings. When I was probably 6 7 years many years ago started to understand the kind of the convolutional neural network and the different kind of the transformers. I use this very heavily and to get these mathematical equations and to work out. Personally, I myself also provide a few the short course in the kind of in the deep learning and the in and also the generative AI course. I've kind of that's a one example. On the other side, if you're kind of interested in how the AI agent doing the programmings and can the OpenAI have this the OpenAI have the materials on their kind of the on their website, kind of the OpenAI, the API, how to use the OpenAI API. That's also very helpful because the technology is keep changing. It's important to follow the source of the information. For many of my development, I keep refer back for the OpenAI official website to kind of to how to use the different models there. Kind of most recently the agent kit they just released and how the API works and that information is also very helpful.
Okay, great. Now I have received, oh, thank you, Hoda. I've received another question from a statistician, Chuanwu Zhang. He's from Santa Fe. He said his question is similar. Okay, he said he was trained via the traditional statistical methodology. If he would like to learn about machine learning AI, especially for the application in clinical trial. Can you please pave the learning way from A to Z?
Oh, that's a very good question. So
Uh-huh.
I was just let me to think about is uh actually it's in these slides. So we should not define ourselves. Kind of I was thinking about what are kind of who we are. So we should not define ourselves as a statistician, biostatisticians. We need to think about ourselves as a scientist, happen to have a statistical tools in our pocket. So that is will have a bigger view of the whole science. So in terms of the point from A to Z, I think start to understand some of the computings that's very important. That will help you to really lay a solid foundation. In terms of computing, if you really want to get a little bit deep, so you can choose some material. But let me talk about my what I feel like is really important. So in terms of start with the computing, in terms of computing, I feel like four things is really important. The first one is you need to understand a little bit optimizations, so mathematical optimization, because optimization is so important that helping us not only to solve the maximum likelihood problem, constrain the maximum likelihood problems, to get the tools to solve statistical problem, they also help you to understand some theoretical property. And later on, because people talk about all the machine learning and AI problem, at the end of the day, the optimization problems that help you kind of to kind of get get into the field. I feel that's extremely important. So the second piece, understand a little bit of low level programming, because I truly believe if you don't understand the low level programming, you will be get struggled for the high level programming sooner or later. For example, people get struggled with the Python NumPy array, the list, what's the difference, how they organize this information, and some of it when the C programming is passed by reference, passed by values, and what's the difference of that? So that's the and also for the parallel computing. In the low level programming, understand like C or C++ is extremely helpful, at least some basic concept. That doesn't mean you do the programming use C or C++ every day, but at least some concept you need to understand. Some of the book I really like is computer computer structure from a programming view, something like this. Kind of you can search, and the author is a joint author from Princeton and CMU. That I believe you can find this book. The next piece from kind of the algorithms. Understand the algorithm and data structure to use the so-called the red book. Can this you can even just search the algorithm, the title, the cover is red, the red book. So that is also very helpful to understand some of the. That's why many of the technology company interview they ask you some coding interviews. They're using that based on the algorithms and so the next component doing the in the programming is need to understand some kind of the design patterns, the design pattern to design the software. Lot of people know how to write the code, but when we talk about become more professional levels, write the code, you need to understand the different design pattern. So factorial patterns and decorate patterns, different design pattern will help you to make the code is more professional, it better to collaborate, better with other folks, better to maintain the code. Once you have this solid foundation, you can choose and pick, and once you have these solid foundations, the next step is to understand the current popular architectures for the AI models. For example, the good sequence start from the kind of original like image recognitions, different architectures, the Net 5, kind of AlexNet. So different architecture for the image model. And after that, we can jump in the sequence models. The sequence is sequence classifications, sequence to sequence model. So these are three big component is a kind of image, sequence classification, sequence to sequence model. And so that will lay a good foundation for the AI methodologies. And after that, you can jump in for the kind of generative AI. Generative AI can start with or the traditional old like GAN model, how the GAN model works, diffusion based and to a modern diffusion based solutions on the generative different generative model. So that will give you from A to Z some of the general idea what it looks like.
Very interesting how that. Do you mean that in the future, the statistician could have three roles? Like they're scientists, first of all, so understand the drug development itself, good understanding, and statistician, and be good at using as good at coding as programmer using the then software languages. That's they're playing like three roles in one statistician.
So I was just thinking about is kind of each of us need to have a kind of AI right now. It already made each of us it have a wider spectrums of capabilities. Think about kind of I collaborate with my physicians. Our physician right now these days for very simple analytic, they himself kind of he's so impatient to get the result. He already copy paste the data in the chat GPT and to get this kind of the AI models and to get the data analyzed. And once they analyze, they check with me. Oh, is it the right model? Is it I miss kind of is there kind of the confoundings I missed? Is there any of the bias kind of of my methodologies? So as a physician, they already do some of the data analysis as our statistician, we also should learn some medical knowledge and drug target MOA. So that's also important. So AI already force each of us have a wider spectrum that we can better to communicate, collaborate with our collaborators. The short answer is yes, and we need kind of continue to expand ourselves and just because the only way we have a bigger influence is we need to have a more broad understanding for the whole drug development.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess that answer also address some of the questions about most important technical skills for modern statisticians. Now I have another question is, can AI help us do better dose optimization? It's a very detailed technical question.
Yeah, so the dose optimize, so certainly this kind of the dose optimization is certainly kind of the first part is the kind of the important and the PKP scientists statisticians closely collaborate with the different level kind of with the dose range. It really depends on the therapeutic area. If we talk about oncology, the Bayesian design and kind of their non-oncologists kind of we estimate dose response curve using Emacs models, and certainly kind of I'm thinking to with the AI technology, coming back to the thinking models, I was thinking about good starting point. Either good starting point, kind of this back to the slides. Good starting point is important. So, for example, by leverage the AI, we can quickly search for similar drugs, similar MOA, kind of uh, what the potential could what the potential other kind of the kind of the information what the potential better model we need to use, what other similar candidate and the potential safety issues, then we can better identify what the therapeutic window kind of to kind of start with the end of this dose. So this kind of one piece, and also for better for the AI, kind of we can if this kind of the second generations and how can we learn hard from the previous generation, and in the end and also come out with the design we can also come out kind of different dose ranging studies, different dose ranging design, and make the quick learn and to quick iterate. So that I'm just thinking about from these three angles to think about these problems.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I think we're almost running out of time. I have a question. I think the audience is also asking, and I know lots of statisticians have some concerns, and so we want a honest view from you on that. So, so will AI take over the job? And what is your prediction for the job market?
So,
Use AI. I'm
so
just kidding.
yeah, actually, that's an interesting question. So actually, lots of jobs already took because of the computers. Very
Mhm.
interestingly, do you know? Some people know, some people may not know. We call the computer originally was a job title. Someone with a job title, oh, I'm a computer. if you can search on the Wikipedia. But actually, the real machines, computers, replace those folks. And right now, when we mention the computer and this machine, it's not someone the people's job title. Similarly, I still remember many kind of why I was a kind of the kind of people probably kind of this, in driving the highway. I remember kind of driving. Let me check the time. Yeah, driving the highway and previously have some people to collect the money in the tollway, but these days a lot of this job is already disappeared. So I'm thinking the job title will be keep kind of our job content will keep changing, and we also need to adapt for ourselves. Maybe like a bold predictions. Maybe in the future, some statistician and programmers role could potentially combine, and where at one persons they can be more efficiently to coordinate the AI to do some programming. They can check the result. So that's the kind of what I see, kind of that could potentially change for the futures.
Very interesting. We'll see if it's going to happen in next few years. But I think at the same time, as a statistician, we should all, prepared for, the AI has changed lots of things in our jobs, day-to-day responsibilities. So we'll see what's going to happen. So I think I addressed most of the questions. I have the last question. I think the audience asked what's your view of AI to using AI for assistance in coding? But I'm not sure it's something you can answer.
Oh, Oh, that's extremely powerful. I'm thinking the kind of the people probably already saw we mentioned in the AI in the kind of technology companies. They already replaced many of the entry level programmers, and these days I heavily rely on AI for the programming. And
Mhm.
I write my papers, write down the methodology, and just send this PDF file into AI and ask based on these papers could write the methodology code for me, packed in the functions, generate some unit test, give me a good documentations. Right now they already can do this. So kind of I feel like the AI for the programming is close to mature in the areas.
Okay. Thank you for insight. I guess yeah, thank you so very much, everyone, for your thoughtful questions and active participation. And a special thank to Dr. Haoda Fu for sharing your insight, vision, and leadership in advancing our field at this important moment of transformation. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future session. And also, I'm not forgetting to thank all the volunteers and organizers again from ICSA to make this happen. Thank you.
Okay,
We'll
thank
see you
you.
next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.